to talk with you today about our familiars. Over the course of time, we have traveled for millennia with animals, insects, fish, and even the hidden inhabitants of nature. It's only recently, though, in the past several hundred years, with the notion of familiars or animals as spirit, were given some sort of a superstitious connotation, as if they were here to do the bidding of the magically inclined. It's a superstitious, as I said, connotation. Thankfully, it's also ultimately been discarded to the wayside. And ultimately, it seems, now more than ever, animals seem to be returning to their proper placement in the temple of the gods and goddesses. They seem to be really treasured in a way that they absolutely should be. You know, it can, though alternately, be quite heartbreaking when you become quite attached to animals. We had a Siamese cat and this is quite common with this particular breed, they're long-lived. We had a Siamese cat for 20 years, Vinny. And, you know, when you have an animal that long, and I'm speaking to many of you people that have recently lost an animal in this retrograde or this particular year, it's been quite disheartening. A lot have been lost. But, yeah, we had Vinny for a very long time. The last year of his life, we had to even put fluids in him to help him just to have some quality of life. But we did have him for a long time, and you know, after 20 or so years, an animal, as you guys know, truly becomes a part of the family. Of course, we were devastated. You know, I think what devastates us all when we lose a pet is they're so unconditional love in their love. They're just so unconditionally loving that, you know, you don't have to prove anything to them. You don't have to pretend you're something that you're not. Doesn't matter what car you're driving or what kind of a house you live in. They love you unconditionally. So it just hurts so much when you invest so much of your heart in an animal and domesticate it, and you have to lose them. What's been interesting, though, is when we speak of familiars earlier, this is what's rather haunting about their energy field. For the past 2 years since Vinny's been gone, every night when I go to bed, every single night, there's a weight of a cat that jumps up on the bed. Now, since Vinny's been gone, that's Troy doing his tricks over there. We've gotten Troy, the Houdini. We've gotten 2 Silver Point Siamese. So every night that there's the weight of a cat jumping up on the bed, I turn the light on, expecting it should be Troy or the other 2 brothers, Max and Charlie. But every time I turn the light on, it's not. I'm convinced it's Vinny returning to us to let us know, at least for whatever window of time he has this opportunity, to let us know that he's around, he's still in the house, and he's there for us. It's kind of comforting, if a little unusual. Don't get me wrong, though. I'm definitely a dog lover. I absolutely love dogs. I've grown up with dogs all my life. The reason I like the breed Siamese so much is because they're extremely dog-like. They're vocal, they fetch. If someone comes up the driveway, they'll give me a little meow that there's someone there. So they're not afraid. They're playful. The breed is so unusually dog-like. It's phenomenal, and that's why we really love them. So it's why we yearn for that particular breed. But I do have to admit, though, even when Vinny died, you can never, as you know, fill the void of the loss of a pet. And even getting 3 Siamese brothers that love each other so much and are so sweet when they all sleep together here on the little blanket, it can't fill the void of our missing Vincenzo. So what they absolutely love is the freeze-dried chicken. It is 100% chicken and nothing else. So, you know what? Here comes Charles.
Charlie.
I'm surprised Max isn't here. It keeps them in line, but they absolutely love it. And it's very healthy for them. It's protein. Let me break this up for you, though. It is freeze-dried after all. They love it. Of course, animals are very therapeutic to the touch. I have found as a psychic and a medium over the course of my life, I've often found, much to my surprise, that whenever I'm accessing the other side, quite often what comes into play is, and even if this is a large group of people, an animal that's passed will come through. I find that quite interesting. Animals that have recently passed, quite often their names that were given to them, Chloe or Vinny or you name it, but they come through. So it's interesting that even they in the heavens don't always just transcend or transmigrate, but they remain sometimes, waiting for their owners to return to them. So whether they do it because they've given special gifts like perhaps trees, minerals, and animals have, where they can return, or if they can't return, they just seem to have mastered the other side in an unusual way that not all human beings, I'm convinced, have, where they can be accessed effortlessly. Cats, intuitive beyond belief. Dogs, even more so. The loss of a dog is just so intense, I don't even know where I could begin to discuss such a thing. They become so much a part of the human experience that to lose them is like just, it's beyond heart-wrenching. It's indescribable. That's sometimes why, as much as it hurts to lose a cat, I'd almost rather have them than dogs, because it's unspeakably heartbreaking. But it is unique about dogs, all these latest scientific discoveries, how they can smell dis-ease in human beings, or how they can ferret out many miles away, sometimes up to hundreds of miles away, their home when they're displaced. They can return to home, to a gravesite of a lost loved one. I mean, dogs are incredibly sensitive to the energy fields, that they can even sniff through your skin, your blood, and then determine, again, certain cancers and things of this nature are amazing. When I think back in my lifetime, all the different animals I've interacted with and how much I love them, cats and kittens, dogs and puppies, petted, serene and very, struck me as very monarch-like goats, the beautiful strength of horses, wrapped dry velvety snakes around my throat, almost as a prop, but lovingly so. There's just something so tremendously gem-like, something to be treasured in these creatures. And not just animals, insects too. I have many times in the backyard when I'm deadheading or snipping the buddleia, black swallowtails and monarchs and yellow swallowtails will be on the buddleia flowers sipping, and I'll bring the flower down to me and kiss the butterflies. And I don't know what the neighbors think, but you know, I don't really mind too much. It's sort of like I have the distinct honor of kissing them, and they have the sense enough to determine that I'm of no bother to them. So I'm planting their host plants and the plants I like to drink from. So they're really having a ball. They don't mind if I touch a powdered wing now and again. It's really rather sweet. We had at sunset every night, the dragonflies are in the garden. I'm not talking like the damselflies at about 5 o'clock. These little gorgeous little turquoise damselflies. You could put your finger out and they'll land on one. I'm talking about the dragonflies at about sunset, the ones that are archaic, awesome, ancient looking, and we had them fluttering, zooming so much around, catching mosquitoes, that at one point the outside cat, Pickles, grabbed one and had one in her hands, and she was just about to chew it, and I had to tell her, you know, I don't mind if you catch a mouse, I guess, or what you gotta do what you gotta do, but not my dragonflies. So I released it, and sure enough, it was fluttering all over the place. It was fantastic. I have from time to time found a fledgling cardinal or a crow that's fallen out of the nest or hasn't quite learned how to fly yet. And the crows are amazing with their blue eyes, the babies. And I've put gloves on or other things, made sure that my scent wasn't on them. But I've also often, in order to save them from the feral out there, the cats, put them back up in a nest, or at least in one of my hanging pots where they're safe for a while, where they're kind of getting their wings in water while the parents are around watching what I'm doing. They've ultimately reintroduced their baby back to themselves, but these cardinal babies are awesome. They have little mohawks, red mohawks, and they have mad little faces. They're quite cute. And the crows are to die for. They're just so beautiful. You almost don't even want to give them back to the parents, but of course you have to. And I feel really great when they actually do fly up a tree or a fence and mom's nearby to get them back in order. So it's kind of sweet with birds. We call it 7 at 7. Every night at 7 o'clock, 7 crows appear in the oaks. Crows are said to remember the trees they were born in. These oaks are 300 years old. I am concerned about them with the upcoming hurricane, but they will return every night at 7, have a familiar little chat fest with each other, and then disperse or go wherever the crows want to go. But I find it quite fascinating. They recognize me every single night, and after that, of course, after the crows are gone, the damselflies are gone, and the dragonflies are gone, the bats come out. Then it's bat viewing time. We have up to 3 every summer, a big fat one and 2 little brown bats. I love to watch them do their acrobatics in the sky as they're catching mosquitoes, and they really are doing you a favor. I find it quite interesting when lovers will walk down the block hand in hand, just in their dreamlike state of love, not realizing that right above their head they're attracting mosquitoes, and as a result they got bats flying right above their heads. They'd freak out if they knew that. So of course I don't say anything, I just watch what's going on, but they're beautiful the way they'll swoop right by you. We went to a recent block party with friends, and all me and Nancy could do the whole time is watch the bats do their thing up in the sky. I am concerned, however, about this new white nose fungus or something they're getting. I've heard over 1 million bats in the Northeast have died from this disease currently, and scientists don't know what to make of it other than it gets into their leathery wings. It kills them when they're in hibernation. So he just went tumbling. So we're losing them. Therefore, when I see them over the house every single night, every single summer since I've moved here, I'm very grateful, because although I'm only seeing 3, there's got to be more if there's 3, but I pray to God that they survive whatever is happening to the environment that's so toxic that could potentially be killing them. Most of these brown bats come from the Hudson Valley cave region and ultimately come up this way to feast on mosquitoes. And again, if we don't have them, we're going to have a swelling infestation of mosquitoes, and then we're going to have West Nile virus. So hail to the bats. Surely my animal magnetism draws these little brown bats to us. They're called Myotis lucifugus. They're quite unique. I remember when I'd been in Florida, Troy's doing every stunt imaginable off screen. You wouldn't believe what he's doing around here. I was rafting in Sanibel Island on the water in the beautiful Gulf of Mexico. As I'm laying there, almost sound asleep on the water, a school of fish had come by underneath my raft, and a bunch of them jumped over me and over the water, and they were all flapping on my belly. About 2 dozen fish, all on my belly and on my face and on my stomach. It kind of threw me for a moment, but I was astonished that there's a certain energy, I guess, that psychics, or maybe human beings in general, attract, that they just jumped all over me. Or also at Captiva, I remember, I was in the beautiful waters of Captiva, which are absolutely stunning in Florida. And as I'm standing in the water looking at Nancy on the shore, 3 dolphins came up to me, jumped up in the water, swirled around in the air, and came back down. But again, I don't know sometimes if it's my energy that's drawing them to me, or whether it's just a human condition with these high priests of the sea that dolphins come to us. Every summer I take my bike down to Freeport Harbor and around mating season for the horseshoe crabs, and they are absolutely magnificent. They come up to me, so I'll get about 5 of them will see my feet in the water, and they'll come right up to my feet, and they'll all swirl around me. And I remember one in particular climbed up to the water's edge. They've got 5 pairs of legs. They're actually the spider and scorpion family, believe it or not, although they look like crustaceans. Anyway, one lifted his eye above the water and looked at me, and I said to him, "You're beautiful." And he had green algae growing on him, because they're like walking, living dinosaurs. They're something from another era before we ever existed. And I pet him, and you could just feel from their energy fields antiquity, beyond antiquity. Prehistoric energy was flowing through their blue blood, and you could just feel the magnificence of them swirling around you. There's really just nothing quite like it. It's breathtaking. I'm convinced, and it's obvious, that horseshoe crabs are living fossils. But that's all mine. Anyway, last week we had the earthquake, and because I'm I guess somewhat of a freak, or just because of the work I do, because I'm psychic, it affects me very differently. It was the first day of Virgo, and I was reading a young Virgo gal, quite a dear. She came all the way from Arizona and fit me in for her reading. Anyway, her concern was, I'm not going to give too much away, I don't speak about people's reads other than that this was such an amazing happenstance. She's very desperate to have a child, and I had told her a year ago that indeed she'd have a child, and it would be in just a couple of years, but she'd have this child. So being a Virgo, and they're quite cerebral, and I don't blame them at all, be that way, be skeptical. Anyway, she said, let's do something with the cards. Let's ask the question again and see what happens. So I vigorously mix-mastered all the vibrational fields in. When I pulled the same amount of cards out again, 5, Every one of them was the same card that said, a little girl at this time of the year, she'll be yours, and even if you had to go through these miscarriages, this will ultimately be yours. She looked at me like, wow. So I said to her, what more does God need to do to prove to you that this will be so? All of a sudden, Charlie and Max run up the stairs at 100 miles an hour, and Vinny runs into the living room looking around. The house starts shaking violently because I live in a 140-year-old home. All the paintings and mirrors start moving side to side. The chandelier above her head is moving at a rate it should not be moving. The windows are so old, they're rattling to the point where I thought they were all going to crack. And instead of me having the same feeling that most people had, which is I'm feeling nauseous, I become empowered, run into the middle of the living room floor as if I'm 16, and say, by the powers of the mighty thunderous energies of Lady Mother Earth, give this girl her dream come true. And she's just like, looking at me like, oh my God. I mean, it was awesome, but at the same time, I felt Mother Earth was trying to tell this gal something, because the animals had reacted, nature had reacted, the earth had reacted to the very mentioning of this experience existing for this gal, a baby. And after all, it is Mother Earth. They said when this happened in Mineral, Virginia, 5.8 earthquake, that the animals in the Washington Zoo, moments before, were absolutely out of control. Why are we not paying attention to animals? We are animals. Most people I know are animals, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way it is. We're all interconnected. This house has actually seen its second earthquake. This particular fault line, which built the East Coast, had the exact same Richter scale, 5.8, back in the late 1800s. So this house has survived 2 earthquakes. And now we've got Hurricane Irene coming up the coast, and it's supposed to slam us pretty hard. I'm trying very much to do weather working with my metaphysical friends and push it out to sea. But the day that we were quite verklempt and quite stressed over what it could do for us, my wife came home with one of our little harvests from the garden. And it's only August, but I'm always the first one on the block to have a pumpkin on the doorstep. And I felt it was a message to me, a message from nature. To me, pumpkins say a lot. And this particular guy said, it's going to be okay. That said, thank you, pumpkin. Let's see what the cards have to say in regards to all the animals, all of nature, and the reverence of it. Okay. They say this today. So, in honor of nature and its wildness, let's see what the vibrations have to say. 2 have already been chosen. The one that fell to the floor is not an easy vibration for me to have to take a look at. When I painted this piece many years ago, I wanted it to represent some sort of a beautiful little scene of peace in Montauk, or look, Troy wants to choose this card. Hawaii, Maui, I don't know. It turns out the card has always represented loss of life and a little bit of concern. I cannot candy coat this vibe, and I've had to learn over the years not to do that. This card, I don't want to panic anybody, but this card has never bode well or said things like, forget it, Dan, sugarcoat it, make it seem like it's just not that big a deal. It is. So, there you go. It flew out of the deck, landed on the floor, and it will not be ignored, but that's why everybody's kind of upset and I guess raping the supermarkets of milk and bread because of the hurricane. The next vibration that obviously pushed itself out of the deck next is the vibration that is another kick in the pants. It says nothing. It won't go further than that even. It's saying, this is what you need to know. Life is beautiful, these 2 trees. Water's, which it's, by the way, it's all water and sky and moon and trees. It's powerful. The universe right now refuses to say anything else. So, that's it. Okay. You have to accept it. You just have to accept it. And there's the third vibe. I have not been allowed to choose anything. The third vibe is also just as interesting as the first and second. Flora and fauna. That's what this entire video was about. Everything of the earth, all of its hidden inhabitants, the magic in the earth, the plant life, and never forgetting that we human beings are woven into the tapestry of this mystery we call the universe. May you all be safe, May you all be blessed. My prayers are for you, and I know your prayers are for me.